Oh,
Good morning. Welcome to the Muskogee Creek National Council Emergency Session. Today is Thursday, August 24th, 2023. The time is 11 a.m. My name is Speaker William Lowe, and I call this meeting to order. At this time, I would like to ask Representative Joyce Deere to say this morning's invocation.
God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for allowing us to be here and take care of the business of the nation, Lord. We thank you for all the blessings of life, and yes, that you bless our elders and bless our children and bless our nation. For all the blessings of life, and we thank you for everything that you do for each of us. Please watch over us and keep us throughout the day. In the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen.
Amen. But Representative Deere. Roll call, recording secretary, April Lindsay.
Speaker William Love.
Here.
Galen Cloud.
Here.
Mary Crawford.
Present.
Joyce Deere.
Present.
Patrick Freeman.
Here.
Sandra Golden.
Present.
Leonard Gouge.
Here.
Nelson Harjo.
Here.
Joseph Hicks.
Here.
Randall Hicks.
Present.
Robert Huff.
Present.
Anna Marshall.
Here.
Charles McHenry.
Here.
Thomasine Yahola Osborne.
Present.
Daryl Proctor.
Here.
Mark Randolph.
Present.
Speaker, you have 16 present and 0 absent.
16 present, 0 absent. That constitutes a quorum. Any business conducted this morning will be valid. On to the order of business. TR 23-087, a tribal resolution of the Muskogee Creek Nation authorizing the construction of a new stage located at the Omniplex in Okmulgee, Oklahoma. Sponsor is Representative William Lowe.
Speaker, I make a motion to adopt.
Representative Joseph Hicks makes a motion to adopt.
Second.
Seconded by Representative Galen Cloud. Discussion. We have Mr. Bobby Howard online to discuss this issue. Bobby, can you hear us, sir?
Yes, sir, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, sir. The floor is yours, sir.
Good morning, Speaker, National Council. So after the 2 years that we have been through development and the after action reviews that the council knows well that we perform after each event, we have identified a huge cost savings for the nation, as well as the safety aspect of the stage that is currently in place. It is a safety hazard, and we have upgraded the electricity. We have a new transformer, and this stage will allow the nation to host not only our festival, but it'll give us the ability to host other things throughout the calendar year, which will drive the benefit cost analysis up even higher. Currently in the NCA that the National Council has, you'll be able to see that in 2 years, with just having the festival alone, the stage will pay for itself and the cost savings for festival activities. This stage will be 45 feet by 75 with the beginning beams at 28 feet, which will allow the production folks from River Spirit, who we're going to partner with, to hang all of the same equipment that you see at Paradise Cove, which again will be the cost savings that we partner with our folks here at River Spirit, which is where I'm at today at the flood board meeting. It's just going to be an iconic piece to put over there at the Omniplex, and something that our citizens and our communities can use for events as well.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Howard. Do we have any questions, comments, council representatives?
Speaker?
Yes, Representative Golden.
No, this is Representative Marshall.
Yes, Representative Marshall.
Mr. Howard, is that stage going to face the same direction that it is now, or are you going to place it in a different location?
No, it will be in the same location, but we're going to turn it 15 degrees so that the sun doesn't mess with the axe, and that so that we can use more of the area for seating You know, as we add the additional vendor tents there next to the pavilion, we need to turn that, so we're going to. But after going through all the design and our drainage plan, really and truly, that is the best location for it to be. We just need to turn it about 15 degrees to the north.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Howard, because that was a concern that I had, because I hear a lot of complaints about the sun and all of that with it shining in people's faces and stuff when they're on stage. Thank you, Mr. Howard. Thank you, Speaker.
You're
Yes,
welcome.
ma'am. Thank you. Representative Golden.
Yes, thank you, Speaker. Mr. Howard, you said that with the festival alone over, I'm just trying to remember what you said. Over a period of 2 years with the festival, that we will see a cost savings. And I'm wondering what will that be and how will it be?
Well, in the NCA, you will see the cost breakdown for OKC Productions that comes in and sets up that aluminum stage in front of ours. We'll no longer need that. We'll also no longer need the 10 days worth of their production staff, as the production staff here will come down and set up on Thursday, because we'll have a facility. So we will save annually about $112,000 out of that $150,000 bill that we paid this past year. And that's all listed in the NCA. And we can talk about it more in depth then, but that's really the overview. We'll save 75% cost savings.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And thank you, Representative Golden. Any other comments, questions?
Speaker.
Yes. Representative Deere.
Mr. Howard, what is the timeline for this to be built?
With National Council's approval of this today, Tribal Construction has the plans in hand. They will have it before next festival. We will be up and ready and running on the new stage.
So just between now and then? it will
Yes,
happen?
ma'am. Until we order, it's about 90 days on the steel. And then we'll do all the dirt work and the concrete layout ourselves within Tribal Construction. So in the NCA portion, which is where all of the cost breakdowns and kind of the timelines are, you can see that better. But we will have it, I would say probably mid-March is when it will really be in effect. I just tell everyone that it'll be ready for festival.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Speaker.
You're welcome.
Ma'am, thank you. Any other comments, questions? Yes, Representative Joseph Hicks.
Yes, hey, Bobby, is Tribal Construction, are they gonna be the ones building this, or is it gonna be contracted out?
So the building erection itself will be contracted out, the company that we bought the building from. The dirt work and the electrical piece and the concrete, I'd say 80% of that will be through our own workforce. That's how come the cost is so low. The city of Okemah built a stage very similar, but much, much, much smaller, and they spent over $300,000. The stage we're getting 45 by 75 with the dimensions, with all the electrical, all of the work, it came in at about 230,000. So just by doing the work that we can internally, we're going to maximize that, and we may not spend all of the money. But that is the best estimate that Tribal Construction could give us. You know, because the price of the steel jumps every day. The sooner we order it, the cheaper we'll get it.
So Wheeler Metals is gonna be the builders?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Speaker.
All right, thank you, sir. Any other comments,
Speaker.
questions?
Speaker,
Yes, Representative Randolph.
thanks, sir. Mr. Howard, can you tell us the hazards of our present stage?
Well,
What's the dangers there?
well, one, the size of the stage. Two, we keep replacing boards. It originally, when it was built, standards really weren't in place. We've had people step and fall through the floor. So to rehab and to bring it up to the International Building Code would probably cost us in excess of what we have now. And the entertainers, they don't like stages. If you look up underneath it, and I'd be more than happy to take anyone over there, you'll see some of the support posts are actually landscape timbers. So, the stage is 20 years old, and it needs to go.
Thank you, Speaker.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. We have a hand raised by Zachariah Harjo. Zachariah, can you hear us, sir?
Madam Speaker.
Yes, sir.
I was asked by Chief Hill if this was an ARPA eligible project. I think I spoke with you on the phone earlier. Recently, in the past week, Treasury released new updates for eligibility categories for ARPA expenditures. And one of them is all ICDBG related projects. I believe this could qualify under ICDBG. So the funding source itself could potentially be ARPA. I have to do a little bit more research, but we still have the revenue replacement funds we can appropriate towards an investment just like this, which leaves us with an asset that provides, kind of long term. So I'm more than happy to look into that further, but I do believe off the surface reading that it should qualify under new eligibility under ARPA.
Outstanding. Thank you, Mr. Harjo. We appreciate that, sir. Any other comments, questions?
Speaker,
Hearing
this
none.
is Thomasine.
Yes, ma'am. Representative Yehola Osborne.
Yes, sir. My question is, what is the urgency for this legislation to be on the emergency session?
The timeline for purchasing the steel, and so that we can ensure that the stage is in place for festival.
Could it had waited until the next committee meeting?
The way that metal is now, if I could say that if we waited 30 days, we may not have the product and the time to have it erected for festival. And that's why that we got it to speaker as soon as we could. We compared all the bids, we did all the design, the drafting, and we got it to you guys as quickly as we could, because we want to make it happen for festival.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, Speaker.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Any other comments, questions, representatives?
Speaker.
Yes.
Representative Hicks.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Howard, what other events do we have planned other than a festival for the stage usage?
Well, we use it for all of our employee events over there. And it will allow the communities to use it. And this project is not just for festival. This will be something that, just like the dome, that we can use to add to the Omniplex itself.
Okay, and that's what kind of scares me is, you brought up the dome. That was erected for a multi-purpose or all-purpose building, yet it's not. So, but anyway, the other question is, what are we looking at as far as duration of the stage once it's built, as far as lifetime?
Well, the metal itself will be 50 years, and it will be a concrete floor. So I would say the life expectancy is at least 50 years.
Okay.
And the designs and drawings are also to the FEMA high wind standard of 130 mile an hour. We had them over-engineer it just to protect the structure.
Okay. And then the last question I have, Speaker, is how is this going to pay for itself when actually we've been paying companies to come in and set up? I know it's saving us money, but how's it going to pay for itself?
We'll not have to request those funds from you to pay for someone to come in.
That's what I mean.
We'll be able to chop that portion out of the budget.
Right. Right, we're saving money, but the comment was it's going to pay for itself. So I'm wondering, how's it going to pay for itself? It's not paying for itself. We're just saving money.
It's the cost savings. And, you know, by having the facility, I just use those, the cost savings for right now. If we promote this and tourism uses the facility, they can rent it out like we do the softball fields. There's a huge opportunity when you have a facility that we're proposing, and the cost savings that we're going to have allows it to happen.
Okay. So with that being said, Speaker, is there anybody online from tourism to elaborate on some of the events that they may have planned or ideas?
I don't see anybody from tourism online. Chief, do you want to
Speaker.
say anything, sir?
Speaker Ryan is here with me.
Oh, great. Okay. Ryan Logan, if you.
Yes, thank you, Speaker. Ryan Logan, Director of Marketing and Tourism. I can attest, we do have a lot of requests for the use of the stage. Folks always, you know, see the joy that we have during the festival, and they don't realize that we have to rent all of those things and we have to pay for all of those things. And so even this past year when we did the employee appreciation event, we had to rent a few things, but this would allow us that cost savings to where we would keep everything inside the nation. Instead of using outside vendors, we'd be able to use River Spirit, but it would allow more events outside there. Just like the Joy Harjo event we had outside the mound, we had to utilize generators to actually put that event on. So we found ways to make some of these events work, but we're using kind of band-aids. We're using generators that instead of actually having power sources. So this will save funds from the festival and kind of let it go back to the people for programming. And so it'll allow the events to have a little bit more breathing room and allow us to, you know, advertise a little bit better, but also grow. But events specifically, like I said, we get requests all the time, and we work with the recreation crew who oversee the Omniplex on those events as well.
All right. Thank you, sir. Representative Hicks, is that good go for you, sir?
That's good. But last question, I promise, Speaker. So how long will it take Mr. Harjo to find out if ARPA funds could be used for this project?
Zachariah, did you hear that question, sir?
I sure did. I can find out within the next day or so. It really just boils down to whether or not I think it fits in the ICDBG category. And then if not, then it would fall under a different eligibility category, potentially revenue replacement. And I'm sure if council moves forward with this legislation, you know, the next question will be the funding source. So I'll be working with Patricia to work that out.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Speaker.
All right, thank you, sir. Any other comments, questions? Representative Cloud.
I'd just like to reiterate what Ryan Logan said. I mean, a lot of our employees use that stage also, and we also use it for the gathering of the nations. I mean, gathering of the communities, and we have a lot of speakers that get up there, even our elders and stuff. So I think this is something that's well needed.
All right, thank you, sir. Any other comments, questions, representatives? Hearing none, voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Hearing none opposed, TR 23-087 is adopted. TR 23-088, a tribal resolution of the Muskogee Creek Nation authorizing the principal chief to execute a citizen Potawatomi Nation Cultural Heritage Center long room contract with the Citizen Potawatomi Nation for the 2023 Cultural Activities Day in the Shawnee area for Muskogee Creek citizens, Sponsor is Representative Randall Hicks.
Madam Speaker, motion to adopt.
Representative Randall Hicks makes a motion to adopt.
Second, Randolph.
Seconded by Representative Mark Randolph. Discussion. Do we have any discussion?
Speaker,
Yes, sir.
I believe Ann Townsend is online. I'd like to allow her a few minutes to elaborate on this.
Yes, sir,
Contract.
certainly. Yes, sir. Ms. Townsend, are you online and can you hear us, please? All right. the floor is open.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, representatives, for the time. I really am working hard with the Department for Citizens Beyond the Reservation to create more opportunities, not only for citizens outside of the state of Oklahoma, but citizens that live outside of reservation boundaries within the state of Oklahoma. Initially, in the beginning of my working in this position, I did a survey. The survey turned out that the citizens want more exposure to culture and cultural activities. And so what we are trying to do is bring efforts to give them cultural classes, exposure to the language and to the Muskogee hymns. And so we are trying to work with other tribes that live outside of, for citizens that live outside of our reservation boundaries to provide venues for these types of events to take place. We are asking to be able to work with the citizens in Potawatomi to use their event center to be able to put on a cultural day, which would be sort of like an outreach. And if it's necessary, we could turn it into an outreach. But for now, we were looking at just having a cultural day to be provided for them, where we could recruit some vendors, some teachers to teach some classes, maybe some moccasin making, jewelry making, and see about putting some Muskogee citizens in on this event to help with a hymn singing and those types of things.
Thank you, ma'am. Do you have any questions, comments, concerns from the council representatives?
Speaker, I have a question.
Representative Deere.
Ms. Townsend, do you have a date for this activity in mind?
We have a tentative date of September the 26th, I believe is what we had written down. We wanted to do it earlier, but we just wasn't very sure how soon this could get passed. We didn't even know that we would have to go through National Council to, get this contract moving. And so when AG informed us, we felt very lucky to be able to be put on the emergency session agenda. So it is possible that we could move this up a couple of weeks. But for us, doing it now will help us to get all of the paperwork into finance to be approved and processed in an agreeable amount of time.
So we're not doing it in conjunction with the Citizens Potawatomi activity. This is just for us, for our citizens.
This is for us to use their building. Yes, it's just for Muskogee citizens, but it's for us to be able to utilize their building space so that we have a place outside of reservation boundaries for citizens in that area to be able to attend a cultural event.
Thank you. Thank you, Speaker.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Representative Golden.
Yes, thank you, Speaker.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Townsend, was this part of your plan that you submitted for your budget last year?
Yes, it was.
And do you currently have the funds to put this event on in your budget?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Okay, that was just because there is no cost to this for how much they're gonna, when you sign the contract, it doesn't say how much it's gonna be for that event. So do you have a rough estimate?
You know what? I don't have a rough estimate. We sent that paperwork over to the AG's office. I want to say it was like $500 to rent the venue, the building. And there's plenty of space there where we could even do a cooking class if we can find somebody to do that. So I want to say that's what it was. I apologize. I don't have it in front of me. I'm currently teleworking as my little has been exposed to COVID, and they've shut down the elementary school here in Holdenville for the next few days. So I don't have that paperwork in front of me.
Last question, and that is, someone asked this earlier in a different day, but the cultural event that we used to have out here, the fall festival, sort of like for all of the school children, is that what you're patterned this after or designing it?
Somewhat. When they have the cultural day out there, the festival, it's more of demonstrations. And for the citizens beyond the reservation, I want to do more hands-on learning, teaching how to do these things. I think it's important as we learn to preserve our language and our culture and our art, that teaching and a skill to our citizens is more beneficial in helping to preserve than just demonstrating.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other comments, questions? Hearing none, voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Hearing none opposed, TR 23-088 is adopted. And Ms. Townsend, we do pray for your child and the kiddos down there in Holdenville, man. So sorry to hear about that.
Thank you so much.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Appreciate that. And thank you all, Representative.
Yes, ma'am, you bet. Next item on the agenda, TR 23-089, a tribal resolution of the Muskogee Creek Nation authorizing the principal chief to enter into a non-impairment agreement on behalf of the nation with BOKF NA, doing business as Bank of Oklahoma as administrative agent for the various lenders in relation to financing for the Muskogee Nation Gaming Enterprises LLC. Sponsor is Representative Randall Hicks.
Speaker, motion to adopt.
Representative Randall Hicks makes a motion to adopt.
Second, Thomasine.
Seconded by Representative Thomasine Yehola Osborne. Discussion. Do we have any discussion?
Speaker,
Yes, sir.
we should have Chairman Chris Ray on, and then Daniel, the attorney for our banks that does our banking.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Great. Chairman Ray, the floor is yours, sir.
Yes, sir, Speaker. Can you hear me just fine?
Yes, sir, we can.
Okay, thank you very much, Speaker, National Council members. I would like to defer my time to Mr. Daniel Carter. He is the attorney that we've engaged to help with the refinance of this respective secured credit facility. So at this time, if you don't mind, sir, I would like to defer to Mr. Carter.
Outstanding. Daniel Carter, the floor is yours. We see you now, sir. All right, good deal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This non-impairment agreement is part of the refinance of the credit facility with BOKF that finances all of the nation's casino operations. We had a discussion about this 2 months ago about the non-impairment agreement. It's necessary because the nation, as a governmental entity, is no longer a loan party under the proposed loan agreement. They are a party, you are a party under the current loan agreement. This non-impairment agreement just helps provide assurances to the lenders that their collateral will remain protected and any recourse assets will remain enforceable by the lenders in case of a default. But this new structure, as we've discussed, is a way to better protect the nation's assets, its governmental assets that it uses for its programs and services. So since the version was circulated 2 months ago, there has been some minor changes. Those have been redlined and shared with the attorneys of the National Council and the Attorney General's office and the Chief's attorney. We've responded to questions, but it seems like everyone signed off on those changes.
All right, Mr. Carter, thank you so much for the update. Do we have any comments, questions? National Council.
Speaker.
Yes.
This Daryl.
Yes, Representative Proctor.
I know we had detailed discussions on this particular legislation, and I want to hear what our council attorney, and then his comments on it.
Okay, Kyle, the floor is yours, sir.
Good morning, everyone. So I don't know if the Attorney General's office have had the opportunity to make a written opinion about this issue. I think I saw Clint Wilson's name on there, so I would like to hear from Clint. But generally, the non-impairment agreement does contain a limited waiver of sovereign immunity. Daniel did a good job in working on the document. It's legally binding, it's enforceable. I do just want to give that 10,000-foot overview. Is that essentially the non-impairment agreement precludes the nation from taking any action that would compromise Bank of Oklahoma or its other banks that are sharing in the risk, compromise their ability to collect on the debts owed by the nation. If there would be a violation, we'd be given a chance to fix it. The agreement provides basically for 45 days to cure. We could be extended an additional 30 days. But I do want to point out that, the loan agreements deal with the assets of gaming. The non-impairment agreement, if there's a violation, goes beyond those assets to the assets of the nation. I do want to point out that there's a provision that we all know about that exists in other areas, but it does provide that the nation cannot permit gaming activities by churches, ceremonial grounds, charter communities for the purposes of fundraising or charitable purposes. Again, that kind of goes back to BOK's assurances from the nation that gaming will only occur at our gaming facilities. It does provide for consent to arbitration, which is, just generally it's a form of alternative dispute resolution to try to keep things out of the court. It does provide a waiver of our right to a jury trial and does subject the nation to the state courts of Oklahoma. Other than that, if there's any questions, I see Clint's name again. I know Clint's had a chance to look at it. I just haven't seen whether a written opinion has been issued. So Clint, I'd like to defer to you.
Mr. Wilson, can you hear us, sir?
Yes, I apologize. I had myself on mute.
No, you're good to go,
yes.
sir. Go
Thank you,
ahead.
Speaker. We would echo Hal's analysis, and we have worked with Mr. Carter on this, and we don't have a written opinion, but we have discussed this at the meetings with council, and in addition on different correspondences with Mr. Carter, as I mentioned. So if we need to issue a written opinion, we can. But just given the situation that we're in, I think everyone's fully aware of the time crunch for this and the waivers that are included within this document. But if the speaker would like a written opinion, we can provide that.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. I think in urgency of time and of the time presence, unless any other council representative has any other thoughts, the floor is open for that. I feel we need to get this done. Any other comments, council representatives?
Speaker.
Representative Golden.
Yeah, I don't know how this plays into it, but if we had the discussion that we could put gaming in some of our other facilities because it's on the reservation, is that included in here if we're talking about it and we're considering it? Is that part of this?
I would assume that gaming's intent would be going to be okay to fund any build out projects. So if the intent is not to do so, they would have to get BOK's consent as well as those syndicates if we were to use, for example, our own money, because that may be viewed by them. Maybe I shouldn't speak for them, but they may view that as being impairing their ability to collect funds. But we would just have to be open and transparent with BOK and have those discussions with him.
Great. Chairman Ray, would you like to elaborate, or Mr. Carter?
Speaker, this is Chairman Ray.
Yes, sir.
The banking syndicate is well aware that if this secured credit facility is approved, that some of the proceeds from this respective credit facility will be utilized for future capital improvement projects or new gaming projects within our reservation. There's nothing that precludes us from building new venues within our reservation. As a matter of fact, that's what a lot of this funding from this respective facility will be utilized for, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Representative Golden, thank you, ma'am. Any other comments, questions, Representative?
Speaker,
Yes, Representative Joseph Hicks.
just a comment. I understand, and, you know, I'm with you. I agree that this does need to be passed right now. But at this time, just because of some of the guidelines in this, I just want to say that I can't support it.
Yes,
But
sir.
I do understand that it needs to be passed right now. Thank you.
Understood. Yes, sir. Any other comments, question? Chief, you have your attorney on?
I think Joe's on.
Okay.
AG.
Outstanding. Joe Williams, are you on, sir?
Yes, sir, Speaker, I'm here.
Yes, sir. Please, just your time as chief's attorney to say anything you'd like to say, sir.
No, thank you, Speaker, and
Yes,
members
sir.
of the National Council. Good morning. As Chief said, I've been working with Mr. Carter and the AG's office, looking over these documents, and also your attorney, Kyle, been involved in those discussions. My review of the documents is pretty consistent with what's been said. The non-impairment agreement, in my view, doesn't hinder or hurt the nation. Basically, it just allows for the lender's assets to be protected. Since we're changing the loan from the nation to MNBE. And so I happen to go through these other legal processes to get there, is what this process, or is what this document is about. So there's a waiver of sovereign immunity in there. Nothing different than what you've seen before. And of course, National Council will have to approve that. But I didn't see anything in there that caused me any concern. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We greatly appreciate you. Any other comments, questions, representatives? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Randall Hicks,
Yes.
Robert Huff,
Yes.
Anna Marshall,
Yes.
Charles McHenry,
Yes.
Thomasine Yehola Osborne,
Yes.
Daryl Proctor,
Yes.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Galen Cloud,
Yes.
Mary Crawford,
Yes.
Joyce Steer,
Yes.
Patrick Freeman,
Yes.
Sandra Golden,
No.
Leonard Gouch,
Yes.
Nelson Harjo,
Yes.
Joseph Hicks.
No.
Speaker, you got 13 in favor and 2 against.
13 in favor, 2 against. TR 23-089 is adopted. TR 23-090, a tribal resolution of the Muskogee Creek Nation authorizing the principal chief to enter into a novation agreement to transfer an existing interest rate swap agreement to Muskogee Nation Gaming Enterprises LLC. Sponsored Representative Randall Hicks.
Thank you, Speaker. Motion to adopt.
Representative Randall Hicks makes a motion to adopt. We have a second,
Second, this is Thomasine.
seconded by Representative Thomasine Yehola Osborne. Discussion. Do we have any discussion?
Speaker, I'd like to allow Chairman Ray some time to elaborate on the legislation, please.
Yes, sir. Chairman Ray, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, sir. Basically, what this legislation does is the current swap agreement is with the nation. And since the new credit facility will be with MNGE, this document transfers that swap agreement to MNGE. Since we entered into this swap agreement, just a little background, since we entered into this swap agreement in 2022, we've saved close to $7 million in interest savings. And this swap agreement, the interest rates are locked in on our existing debt, and they will continue through to this new credit facility. I would also like to defer to Jan Tiger or Mr. Daniel Carter if there's anything additional that they would like to add to my comments. Thank you,
Outstanding.
Speaker.
Yes, sir. Mr. Carter, would you like to say anything, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think Chairman Ray covered it. This is just an assignment of that swap to MNGE from the nation. It's a component of the credit facility and refinance.
All right, thank you, sir. Any other comments, questions? Council representatives? Hearing none, voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Hearing none opposed, TR 23-090 is adopted. TR 23-091, a tribal resolution of the Muskogee Creek Nation authorizing the principal chief to submit a grant application to the Department of Housing and Urban Development 2023 Indian Community Development Block Grant Program for Indian tribes and Alaska Native villages for construction of a public facility, Veterans Affairs Service Extension Building. Sponsored Representative Joseph Hicks.
Speaker, motion to adopt.
Representative Joseph Hicks makes a motion to adopt.
Second.
Seconded by Representative Galen Cloud. Discussion. We have any discussion?
Chief, do you have someone online, for this?
Zachariah maybe on there?
Zachariah, are you able to expand on this legislation, sir? Excuse me.
Sure can. So there were two competing departments, well, not competing, but two departments that have put in proposals for this same grant. Unfortunately, both of them came after, or at least the review period came after the legislative deadline for August. And so when we were when one was selected, we knew we needed to get some legislation together so that they had the authority to apply. And this emergency session popped up.
Outstanding. Thank you, sir. Any other comments, questions, representatives? Hearing none, voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Hearing none opposed, TR 23-090 is adopted. Excuse me, 091 is adopted. Sorry, right on the wrong one. TR 23-092, a tribal resolution of the Muskogee Creek Nation authorizing the principal chief to submit a grant application to the Department of Transportation for the FY 2023 Reconnecting Communities and Neighborhoods RCN program for construction of a federal roads geospatial building. Sponsored Representative Joseph Hicks.
Speaker, motion to adopt.
Representative Joseph Hicks makes a motion to adopt. Seconded by Representative Galen Cloud. Discussion. Any discussion? Zachariah Harjo has his hand up.
Madam Speaker, a similar situation with this grant. However, I believe the reason why tribal construction or federal roads was originally not considering applying was because they had a number of other projects, and this particular grant requires I believe a significant match if we're awarded. But under the new eligibility of ARPA, we can appropriate ARPA funds to do the tribal match as opposed to coming from tribal revenue. So when that became a possibility, I think it pushed them to or urged them to apply for this grant opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Any comments, questions, representatives?
Question.
Representative Golden.
Yes, thank you, sir. I know your time is of the essence. At the same time, you've had some thinking about this. So where would this be building? Where are you considering it at this time?
Yes.
That would be, oh, sorry.
Sorry about that, Zachariah. This is David Ford with Transportation Federal Roads. At this time, what has been brought up is the location just to the east of the current transportation building, over here in the industrial park, the 40 acres on the west side.
And we already have that property, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Ford. Any other comments, questions? Hearing none, voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Hearing none opposed, TR 23-092 is adopted. Next item on the agenda. TR 23-093, a tribal resolution of the Muskogee Creek Nation amending TR 22-159, a tribal resolution of the Muskogee Creek Nation authorizing the extension of the Secretary of the Nation and Commerce to continue the operations of the One Fire Holding Company, LLC. Sponsor is Representative Patrick Freeman Jr.
Make a motion to adopt.
Representative Patrick Freeman Jr. makes a motion to adopt.
Second.
Seconded by Representative Joseph Hicks. Discussion. Do we have any discussion?
Yes, Speaker, I think it really is kind of just now that we have a Secretary of Commerce, I think it's just some language for the operating agreement. I think maybe Zachariah can expand on that a little bit more, but I think that's the essence of this legislation.
Outstanding. Yes, sir. Zachariah, would you like to say a few words, sir?
Yeah, as Representative Freeman just stated, is mostly changing the formal name that used to state the Secretary of the Nation of Commerce to reflect the Secretary of Commerce.
Outstanding. Thank you. Any other comments, questions, representatives? Hearing none, voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Hearing none opposed, TR 23-093 is adopted. NCA 23-089, a law of the Muskogee Creek Nation authorizing an appropriation for the construction of a new stage located at the Omniplex in Okmulgee, Oklahoma. Sponsored Representative William Lowe.
Speaker, motion to adopt.
Representative Joseph Hicks makes a motion to adopt.
Second.
Seconded by Representative Galen Cloud. Discussion. Mr. Howard, did you have any other comments to say to this, sir?
No, Speaker, I believe that the National Council asked all of the funding questions earlier, and Zachariah made his comments. I believe, we'll be able to fund this, and it'll be a great flagship piece to the nation.
Outstanding. Yes, sir. Thank you. Comments, questions, representatives?
Speaker.
Hearing none. Did I miss
Representative Hicks,
somebody?
I'm sorry.
Yes, go ahead, sir. Representative Hicks.
Speaker, I'm just wondering if this is approved and then Mr. Harjo is allowed to use the ARPA, how would we be notified of that?
Yes, Zachariah, can you answer that, sir?
That I'm not entirely sure, because the legislation as it's written doesn't necessarily implicate the kind of formula we put together to appropriate ARPA funds. But based on my reading right now, I think it qualifies directly as eligible. So if possible, my recommendation would be to amend the legislation and potentially have it, if it's possible, to be added as other business to the regular session so that we can identify ARPA as the funding source. Because in my opinion, yeah, it qualifies under ICDBG because of the communal use of this investment, but then also, it's investing in kind of, in promoting a healthier lifestyle outside and tied to our recreation facilities. So I think it ties in multiple ways. So I'm not sure, and maybe it's a better question for National Council secretaries on how that would actually need to work if we're going to utilize ARPA funds and amend the legislation as it's written.
Great. Controller, do you have any comments, Patricia?
I actually was going to ask the same question because you're asking for a funding source on this now. So I think I would also have to refer back to how do you make that amendment now, or do I give a funding source and then we come back with an amendment?
Yeah, we'll probably go ahead and have to change this as an ARPA funding piece of legislation. Alicia? Okay, we can postpone this to the regular session so we can make those revisions, those amendments. And by that time, Zachariah will be able to tell us if it's ARPA approved or not.
Speaker?
Yes, Representative Joseph Hicks.
I'll go ahead and make that motion that we postpone this to regular session.
Representative Joseph Hicks makes a motion to postpone NCA 23-089 to regular session.
Second.
Seconded by Representative Galen Cloud. Discussion. We have any discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and do a roll call vote on this amendment.
Joseph Hicks,
Yes.
Randall Hicks,
Yes.
Robert Huff. Robert Huff,
Yes.
Anna Marshall,
Yes.
Charles McHenry. Charles McHenry,
Yes.
Thomasine Yohola Osborne,
Yes.
Darrell Proctor,
Yes.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Galen Cloud,
Yes.
Mary Crawford,
Yes.
Joyce Steer,
Yes.
Patrick Freeman,
Yes.
Sandra Golden,
Yes.
Leonard Gouch,
Yes.
Nelson Harjo.
Yes.
Speaker got 15 in favor and 0 against.
15 in favor, 0 against. NCA 23-089 has been postponed to regular session. NCA 23-090, a law of the Muskogee Creek Nation authorizing the expenditure of American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA funds received from the United States Department of the Treasury for the fiscal relief funding for the Department of Housing for the benefit of the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, sponsored Representative William Lowe.
Speaker, make a motion to adopt.
Representative Galen Cloud makes a motion to adopt.
Second.
Seconded by Representative Joseph Hicks. Discussion. Zachariah Harjo, would you like to share on this information, sir?
Yes, so the ERAP program, which is implemented by the Department of Housing, so the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, had a supplementary, they received funds from BIA and from Congress to implement that program, but they also received supplemental funds from the nation to have staffing to support the implementation of the ERAP program. Essentially, from what I understand, that fund source ran out sometime last fall when the program ended and ran out prior to closing out one of their last invoices, which is the amount presented here, $13,860. It is an ARPA eligible expense. And from what I understand, the Department of Housing did not have the contract support cost funds to cover this expense. So they're requesting ARPA funding to get it covered. And I was hoping to do so as quickly as possible so that they could close out their books, because we have reporting due for the ERAP program around about now, in addition to getting their books and everything ready for the closeout of the fiscal year. So that's essentially the need and request of this emergency legislation. But it was previously funded, from what I understand, under either CARES or ARPA funding as directly eligible, since it was implementing a federal program designed by Congress.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments, questions? Representative Golden.
Yes, thank you. You mentioned, Mr. Harjo, that we already have emergency housing. That was those tiny homes back there, and that was under the CARES funds.
Yes.
Okay, so that was what, 2 years ago, and they're still not open. And one of the last things that I learned was that they're waiting for guidelines from somebody. So how is this going to work with that? Because we still don't have anybody in there, and we have people who need emergency housing and they're being turned away.
That would be a question of, more for housing as they have implemented that program. However, what I can say is that there is an internal issue with the policies, because if we, and the small home, the tiny homes are completely separate from the ERAP program that we're discussing right now. The ERAP program was a fund that allowed citizens that qualified based on income and extenuating circumstances to get a distribution from this fund so that it would pay for their rental or mortgage payments. The tiny homes was something different, an investment the nation made. And I know that Chief of Staff Fife and I have discussed whether if it is better fit under housing, because housing is held to strict standards under HUD that would then potentially apply to those tiny homes and require a lot more investment potentially on our side, on the nation, to actually utilize them, because they would have to be HUD compliant. And so the discussion internally has, if it is a better fit for CHS or social services, binding it to a different federal guideline standard And so we're still having those discussions internally. But to date, housing has been charged with the responsibility of implementing the tiny homes, and it's probably a conversation that we need to follow up on very soon. But I'm not certain as to all the events and happenings with that particular project. So it's something that we are absolutely looking into. But for the purposes of this legislation is for the ERAP program, which was just about distributions to families that qualified on a cash or a direct payment basis. It did not involve the usage of the tiny homes.
Okay, so my concern is pretty much why I'm making what I'm saying, is that we get these funds and they're for emergencies. And the last monies that they had, they ended up having so many people on that emergency assistant. They just put them in a hotel for 30 days. And after that, they didn't have a place to go. So, what we've done with those programs is not essentially help our citizens. And that's my basic concern. That whether or not this is going to actually help the citizens. Thank you. Thank you, Speaker.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Any other comments, questions? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Galen Cloud,
Yes.
Mary Crawford. Mary Crawford,
Yes. Yes.
Joyce Steer,
Yes.
Patrick Freeman,
Yes.
Sandra Golden,
Yes.
Leonard Gouch,
Yes.
Nelson Harjo,
Yes.
Joseph Hicks,
Yes.
Randall Hicks,
Yes.
Robert Huff,
Yes.
Anna Marshall,
Yes.
Charles McHenry,
Yes.
Thomasine Yehola Osborne,
Yes.
Darrell Proctor,
Yes.
Mark Randolph.
Yes.
Speaker, you got 15 in favor and 0 against.
15 in favor, 0 against. NCA 23-090 is adopted. NCA 23-091, a law of the Muskogee Creek Nation authorizing the expenditure of American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, funding to the Muskogee Creek Nation Information Technology Department for assistance with COVID-19 related expenses. Sponsors Representative William Lowe.
Speaker, motion to adopt.
Representative Joseph Hicks makes a motion to adopt.
Second.
Seconded by Representative Galen Cloud. Discussion. Zachariah, would you like to discuss this, please, sir?
Yes, so it's come to my attention this morning, and the recommendation that I would propose to council is to postpone this legislation for the time being. I was informed that the IT department went ahead and covered these expenses to their budget, but since this was a directly ARPA eligible expense, I think it's possible that we could send an amendment in so that they could recapture those funds, especially if they were tribal funds in nature, that would free up for those funds to be reallocated elsewhere. So that's a consideration I would propose to council. But it appears that because of the urgency of the need to cover these expenses, they went ahead and did so under their regular budget.
Yes, sir. Do they recommend a propose for 1 month or indefinite?
They just told us, informed us that they took care of it. But I know that since it's an ARPA eligible expense, I would recommend to postpone for 1 month. Like I said, because if those were tribal funds utilized, we could reclass those expenses since we haven't closed out the 2022 audit in any way, and we're not finished with those reporting. So it would just be a question of if the nation wanted those tribal dollars back or to reclass essentially.
All righty, sir. Thank you.
Speaker, I make a motion to postpone indefinitely.
Representative Joseph Hicks makes a motion to postpone indefinitely.
Second.
Seconded by Representative Galen Cloud. Discussion. Is there any discussion? And Zachariah, we can just rewrite this legislation and give a new number, sir. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion. Voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Hearing none opposed, NCA 23-091 has been postponed indefinitely. NCA 23-092, a law of the Muskogee Creek Nation authorizing the expenditure of American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA funds received from the United States Department of the Treasury for the fiscal relief funding for the Muskogee Creek Nation Children and Family Services Administration Sponsor Representative William Lowe.
Figure make a motion to adopt.
Representative Galen Cloud makes a motion to adopt, seconded by Representative Joseph Hicks. Discussion. Zachariah, can you discuss this, sir?
I sure can. So as council knows, in the past year or so, the nation has passed legislation to increase the rate of pay for a number of tribal employees across the board. However, because the nature of grant funding and the grant agencies doesn't necessarily allow the programs themselves to increase the pay through the grant funds, there was a need for supplemental funding. And unfortunately, a lot of the grant funded positions didn't necessarily receive the 4% raise that was intended for employees across the board last year. So this is kind of a supplementary request for Children and Family Services FY23 budget to supplement their current employees to get them up to a more competitive market rate, which will then be backed up by their FY24 requests and their budgetary needs for, I guess, the tribal funds. But in my opinion, in reading of the final rule, they were direct frontline workers during the public health emergency, directly negatively impacted. And just with the cost of inflation and things right now, I believe it's in the nation's best interest to invest in these employees that are being paid, from what I understand, under market rate compared to other tribes in the state of Oklahoma. So this distribution would just get them a bonus, essentially, that would modify their pay so that when it comes time for their FY24 budgets to kick in, they've not only received hopefully that 4% raise that was intended for last year, but that they're at a more, like I said, competitive pay for their market. And if Michelle Bender is on the line, she might be able to answer further questions related to the detailed budgetary expense request. But it took several months for us to kind of aggregate this final number and get it before council. And I was hoping to do so before the end, of course, of their FY23 books.
Right, Ms. Bender, the floor is yours.
Good morning. Thank you or good afternoon. Thank you for taking the time to hear our request for some compensation for our caseworkers and staff. Children and Family Services kind of went through a little bit of staff turnovers this year. And in the last 6 months, we dropped down to a critically low number of caseworkers, case aides, and supporting staff members. To regain those individuals and to become more marketable within the community, to recruit and retain, we had to start looking at competitive rates of pay across the board. And so what we did was look at the pay rates, starting rates for caseworkers within DHS, within Family and Children Services in Tulsa, as well as the Seminole Nation. And what we came across is that the vast majority of all of our caseworkers were underpaid. Our caseworkers are required to have an educational level of a bachelor's degree minimum. The more experience that they have, the more we can bring them in as a caseworker 2, caseworker 3. And so all the way up to caseworker 3 supervisors, they were all making under what starting salaries were everywhere else. And so we were losing our staff. Since February, we have regained all the way back up to 41. Currently, we have 41 staff members, but we're still struggling in getting some of our FPT, or what everybody else would know as CPS workers, brought on board. Though the current employee requisitions that we have out have the old pay scale, and what we're proposing this afternoon to increase those pay scales is to bring them in between what the state of Oklahoma pays, what private agency pays, and what other tribal nations pay. And so this supplemental that we're asking for today will supplement those that have been hired since March. Prior to March, we were able to find within our program the funds to supplement the ones that were still with us at that point. So everybody following March has been coming in at a lot less of a pay scale. And so I just respectfully request that the Muskogee Nation's Children and Family Services employees are compensated a little bit more for their time. Our workers are 24-hour workers. We all across the board are here during the holidays. We're here, taking care of children. We have workers that are having to work their full 8-hour day and then having to travel across the state to pick up children when they disrupt. And so it's just beneficial for us to be able to compensate our workers for their hard work and for their time.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And I will say we greatly appreciate each one of you for the work you do for us. Council representatives, do we have any questions, comments, concerns?
Speaker.
Representative Golden, Representative Randolph, you're next, sir.
Yes, I would just, you said, you gave the number of 41 that are currently hired, and then you still need to hire how many more? And this amount will cover all those 41 plus the ones that you're gonna hire?
No, ma'am. This supplemental amount will cover everybody who is hired after March of this year. Everyone prior to that has already had an adjustment through unallocated funds. We found funding sources to be able to cover those. So this is being requested to cover all staff that have been hired after March, and then to be able to market our caseworkers at a higher salary so that we can get some more qualified applicants and to just have a recruitment tool to be able to bring in staff that have more experience and the educational needs that we would need our caseworkers to have.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. So how many people are we talking?
So since we dropped to 21 staff members, and then we have regained. So since February, we have regained and filled 21 positions here at CFSA. And so those 21 individuals that have been brought in after the fact are not being paid what other fellow workers are being paid. And so that's what this increase is for.
For 21 people?
Yes, ma'am. And then anybody else that comes on after. So like we have some individuals that we are currently interviewing, and then this will also give us the ability to make changes to our requisitions that are currently out there with open positions to increase the pay, to also make us more marketable and to improve our recruitment of qualified caseworkers.
Okay, I understand that. I'm just trying to understand, because you said pay scale also, and I just wonder, you said that you compare what they're making other places. And so that if we do this and we go ahead and say, okay, this is for 21 people, then whose ever pay scale that you're using may not cover all those plus the additional. And so that's why I asked how many.
I'm sorry. No, so what it will cover all of our open positions. We just have filled 21 positions since March. But this will cover all of the vacant positions and the positions that didn't receive that previous increase. It's not just for 21 people. Our organizational chart has 63 total people. Right now we have 41 that have been hired. So we have that gap, as well as those that have not received any increases.
So 12 people. 12 positions.
I'm sorry.
That's what I was asking. Thank you. Thank you.
We're good to go. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Representative Hicks, was that you, sir, that had the question?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Speaker. Representative Golden kind of hit on some of the questions that I had. So you're looking to compensate these employees that's been here 5 months, 6 months?
Yes, they have educational qualifications that they could have gone to another agency and made more money than what they're making here. And so what we're trying to do is make CFSA marketable to other agencies that are out around us, such as DHS, Family and Children, and Seminole Nation, Cherokee Nation, and so forth. And so what we're trying to do is recruit and retain our staff. But if they can go up the road and make, $20,000 more, we really have we have no bargaining chips to try to keep anybody here. And so to just increase, to give those increases, and that's not bringing them up. I know there's a concern with paying somebody that's only been here for 5 months an increase, but what we're doing is bringing them up to market value.
Okay, I understand. So who does the pay scales? Where does that come from?
So what we did, we looked at some comparables. We looked at Seminole Nation. Seminole Nation currently pays their social workers $52,000 annually. As does Family and Children Services in Tulsa. They start their caseworkers out at 50,000. DHS is kind of right in the middle. And so what we're bringing ours in is, anywhere from 39,000 to 43,000. So we're way under the market value as far as caseworkers with bachelor's degree level education.
Okay, with that being said, so if this is approved, so where's your funding going to come from, or do you have that in your budget for next year?
Yes. Yes, we actually started working on this back in March, and it took us a while to get it all, worked out, asking other funding sources and looking at other options to try to increase. But once we finally got everything turned in, that's why, we're here now. But when we started working on the fiscal year 24's budgets, we had already put in these increased requests because we weren't for sure if this would, get to go before council or not. So we went ahead and made the preparations to request a new pay scale for all of our workers across the board.
Okay, so what about your other frontline employees as far as teachers and custodians and your cooks? Are they included in this?
We, Children and Family Services doesn't have any other workers as far as, custodians or cooks or anything like that. We currently have administrative staff, and then we have our caseworkers, our case aides, our intake coordinators, and then all of our managers.
In childcare, I apologize.
No worries.
I got you now. Thank you. Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
Speaker.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Zachariah Harjo has his hand up.
Madam Speaker, I would just add to some further context for council. What's frustrating on our side is a lot of the grant funded or primarily grant funded offices, what they're paying right now was negotiated probably 2 or 3 years ago. Because if they're federally funded, we had to come to these agreements way ahead of time before the actual fiscal years hit. And what we're finding, especially with areas like CFSA and Lighthorse, is that those agreements we made, back in 2019 and 2020, which we're still paying out and bound to now, they're astronomically low federal wages. And we can recruit nobody and either fill those positions, even though we agreed to it, a number of years ago at that pay scale. We run into a catch-22, all the time, because of the grants, we can't, increase the pay because we have to get approved by the agency. And then it leaves us, not being able to hire anyone when our competitors are paying, literally 20,000 more in some cases. And so it just leaves us, in a vulnerable state. And so I think this is one of the few ways to, like I said, offer a reasonable advantage or benefit to existing employees, while the burden of matching those funds and continuing their competitive rate of pay is something that council has to consider moving forward. And it's also part of their FY24 request, and not just them, but a number of the other offices that are primarily grant funded. Unfortunately, it's just a reality that the pay scales that we're mandated to by the grants were agreed to a number of years ago, oftentimes, and there's not a whole lot of flexibility on the federal government side to approve the increases in pay that inflation demands, as well as just the current market rates of everything.
Thank you, sir. Well said. Any other comments, questions, council representatives? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Galen Cloud,
Yes.
Mary Crawford,
Yes.
Joyce Spear,
No.
Patrick Freeman,
Yes.
Sandra Golden,
Yes.
Leonard Gouge,
Yes.
Nelson Harjo,
Yes.
Joseph Hicks,
Yes.
Randall Hicks,
Yes.
Robert Huff,
Yes.
Anna Marshall,
Yes.
Charles McHenry,
Yes.
Thomasini Hill Osborne,
Yes.
Darrell Proctor,
Yes.
Mark Randolph.
Yes.
You got 14 in favor and 1 against.
14 in favor, 1 against. NCA 23-092 is adopted. NCA 23-093, a law of the Muskogee Creek Nation authorizing the expenditure of American Rescue Plan Act ARPA funds received from the United States Department of the Treasury for the fiscal relief funding for the Department of Commerce and the Secretary of the Nation to establish a Jinx office location. Sponsor Representative William Lowe.
Speaker, make a motion to adopt.
Representative Galen Cloud makes a motion to adopt.
Second.
Seconded by Representative Joseph Hicks. Discussion. Mr. Harjo, Zachariah Harjo, would you like to discuss this, please?
Yes, yes, thank you, Speaker. So this request comes as the Secretary of the Nation and Secretary of Commerce divisions have been officially split. We have run into a number of just pragmatic issues. I know most offices across the nation are running out of space, particularly with the master plan coming up. And there's a number of open positions, both within the Department of Commerce and the Secretary of the Nation's office, especially if our FY24 budgets are approved, that we have nowhere to house people. And so, and the majority of the nation's economic might essentially is derived in Tulsa. And we already have a presence up there. And so the Secretary of Commerce, Guy Barker, because we did not have office space for him in any of our current facilities related to Secretary of Nation and Commerce departments, besides the Tribal Utility Authority, he is currently housed at the Tribal Utility Authority. And once they fill those, they have several open positions, they'll need their office space back. But just long term, there are a number of very key business decisions and economic development projects that the Secretary of Commerce as well as Secretary of the Nation offices will be working on in the Tulsa area, including the Low-Water Dam, including the Southern Villa property, and hopefully some major improvements and investments within the Riverwalk facilities themselves, and potential partnerships that have yet to be realized, both with the city of Jinx and the city of Tulsa. But I believe our positioning in that region is very key long-term and offers flexibility overall to recruit better qualified applicants. And one of the things I stressed earlier is that it's extremely difficult for us to recruit the qualified people to fill these key positions in a place like Okmulgee with the rates of pay that the nation's currently operating off of. Moving to Tulsa keeps those rates of pay competitive and offers the advantage of location where we don't have to outsource kind of everything in terms of contract support or being entirely dependent on consultants for very high level technical work. I think the nature of the nation's economic strategies as well as anything that we can do to derive commerce for the benefit of the nation has to really start in Tulsa, because in the city of Tulsa lies all the resources, water infrastructure, energy infrastructure, things that we don't necessarily have to take care of whenever we move forward with a large construction project. And it's primed and ready for us to develop it and make our impact known in ways that we have yet to realize. So I think it's very strategic that the nation have a Jinx office location, and primarily for the Department of Commerce, since as they fill up and staff themselves, that department is relatively new. There are only under, despite there being 4 or 5 offices under the Secretary of Commerce, there are a total of 5 or 6 planned positions in the coming years for different key technical people to work directly under the Secretary, but there's nowhere to house them. And this kind of provides the way for it. And utilizing the economic harm eligibility that the nation experienced itself as a government entity and recipient of ARPA funding, I think this is a wise investment. It is intended to pay for the rent starting in September of this year, but continuing through the end of FY26, utilizing ARPA funding. That way that the nation isn't taking on the commercial expenses, since typically the Secretary of Commerce as well as the Secretary of the Nation are tribally funded positions. So with all that said, there's a lot more justification I could provide to this specific location, but that's kind of the high level view of this request. We're running out of space, and I think this is a key opportunity to get us in the door. And particularly for the Secretary of the Nation staff, it would just be a satellite office. It's just primarily for Secretary of Commerce positions and business meetings and everything to that end. But the Secretary of the Nation, we are also in a number of business meetings, and it would just be nice to have our own office location to meet people and partners and whatever comes of that in the Tulsa area when it's time to do so. But if there's any other questions, I'm happy to answer them. I know Secretary Barker or Acting Secretary Barker had to step off to meet with a citizen, I believe, here at 12:30.
Thank you, Zachariah. Any other comments, questions? Representative Golden.
Yes, Mr. Harjo, you said that each of these programs that are utilizing ARPA funds, and what I would like to understand is how you justify this new location with ARPA funds.
Well, the nation itself experienced a number of economic harms during the pandemic, and a proportional response would be to reevaluate where our impact is greatest and how we could mitigate the harm that we experienced. And just a rough estimation of all of the nation's assets and our impact throughout the reservation, it points to Tulsa. And that's where we generate almost all of the revenue that the nation has at its disposal, so to speak. But is really at the heart of our economic development in the immediate future. And essentially, the way that economy works within our reservation, to fund large infrastructure projects outside of, or to supplement federal funding that the nation hopes to receive for large infrastructure projects in the southern portion of the reservation, requires us to be financially successful in business where we can. And in Tulsa, it just is the easiest route to kind of realize those opportunities, which we already do through gaming, but there's a number, I believe, of untapped business opportunities there that would allow for a further support and investment in our southern regions. But that money doesn't come from thin air, unfortunately, and it has to be earned. And the Tulsa market offers one of the few areas where we can do so without having to take a significant infrastructure project on immediately before we even break ground to start construction of a business. So that would be, to me, the justification why it would be eligible under economic harm for the nation itself to make this type of investment.
Well said, sir. So with the need that we have with the MNB program that have been trying to get their ARPA funds for office space and to recoup what they did during COVID, why is it taking so long? And this comes first before them. If we're indeed concerned and economic development is a priority with your office.
So the nature of this request is inherently different from MNB's request and Muskogee International's request, and that's something that we're meeting with them later this afternoon to clarify. But the nature of this request is for encumbrances or for expenses that have yet to be encumbered. Almost 90 to nearly 100% of MNB and MI's request comes as a reimbursement. And after reviewing their audited financials, it was unclear whether or not those expenses related to healthcare premiums had actually been paid. And if they had, we just needed further documentation. That's kind of the nature of our meeting later today. But the nature of the request, like I said, is a reimbursement. And on our side, we have to take the absolute due diligence for if it's a reimbursement request, because a reimbursement to MNB, if everything, if they provide all the documentation that we need to demonstrate that they actually spent those funds towards healthcare premiums, and I believe that they did, I just need to see further documentation, because they can then use that money as a reimbursement and invest it in whatever, regardless of what the final rule states, because it's a reimbursement to them. If that's not the case, or if there's any questions about it in terms of an audit, it could mean that the nation is liable to repay this allocation in years to come, and I'm doing everything I can to prevent that from happening. They do qualify, but the nature of their request is very different from this request that's pending, because the request that's pending has yet to be encumbered itself. I mean, this is for hopefully the September 1st start through the end of 2026, versus MNB and MI's request is coming from April 21st through May 11th of 2023.
So I just asked how, because of the importance of our economic development with our programs. If they needed this and you knew that, and it's gone on since October of last year. And so that's my concern, that here you want us to help you get your offices, but you haven't helped one of our businesses to do that. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other comments, questions, council representatives?
Yes, Speaker, this is Representative Harjo.
Yes, sir. The floor is yours.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Zachary, and looking at what we're doing here, because, we're one of the more fortunate tribes here in the state of Oklahoma, because we have Tulsa, a big metropolitan area, sitting within our jurisdiction. And it would behoove us to go ahead and move in those particular areas because of further business and everything. And so I appreciate you taking a look at that, because then it puts boots on the ground a lot quicker when we're there, and allows them to be within our offices a lot quicker to have meaningful discussions that can help us. So thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Zachary Harjo.
Inga, and Mado, Representative Harjo, I would just add that the Cherokee Nation has let us know that they probably have an office space in our reservation in downtown, Cherokee Nation businesses. And I take that as a personal affront that our business development has yet to make a firm establishment outside of gaming and one fire, within the Tulsa area itself. So I just thought I'd share that little bit of information. They're very proud of that fact.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Comments, questions? Last call. Hearing
Speaker,
none.
this is Thomasine.
Yes, ma'am. Representative Yohola Osborne.
Thank you, sir. I want to echo what Representative Harjo said. I believe it's time that we do make a statement in Tulsa because we are very fortunate that we are one of very few tribes that have a metropolitan in our reservation, because we do see the Chickasaws doing that in Oklahoma City, and there's no reason why we can't do the same. My question is location. Is this going to be the business offices? Are they going to be at Riverwalk? Is that what we're looking at?
Yes, for now. And we're constantly looking at potential acquisitions that are wise for the nation, both not just within the Tulsa area, but throughout the reservation. But for the time being, yes, this would be at the Riverwalk office. It would just provide additional space, say that the nation were to make a long-term investment in a property in Tulsa and move a number of government workers to a property that they own besides Riverwalk. This would still stay in place as kind of a flex space, as I know the need for office space once we break ground for the master plan is only going to increase, and not just for the Jinx office location or the Riverwalk office location, but potentially the actual commerce office in Okmulgee. So I'm trying to offer as much flex space as possible. And also knowing that the majority of the staff in both departments live in the Tulsa area themselves. And so, and again, going back to the recruitment of key positions, it just makes it a little bit easier if we have that Tulsa presence.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Speaker.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Galen Cloud.
Yes.
Mary Crawford.
Yes.
Joyce Deer.
Yes.
Patrick Freeman.
Yes.
Sandra Golden. No. Leonard Gouge.
Yes.
Nelson Harjo.
Yes.
Joseph Hicks.
Yes.
Randall Hicks.
Yes.
Robert Hutt.
Yes.
Anna Marshall. Anna Marshall. Charles McHenry.
Yes.
Thomasine Yohola Osborne.
Yes.
Daryl Crocker.
Yes.
Mark Randolph.
Yes.
Anna Marshall.
You're not unmuting me.
Anna Marshall.
Yes.
Speaker, you got 14 in favor and 1 against.
14 in favor, 1 against. NCA 23-093 is adopted. NCA 23-094, a law of the Muskogee Creek Nation authorizing the expenditure of American Rescue Plan Act ARPA funding to the Muskogee Creek Nation GSA Fleet Department for assistance with COVID-19 mitigation and disinfection services. Sponsor Representative William Lowe.
Speaker, motion to adopt.
Representative Joseph Hicks makes a motion to adopt. Seconded by Representative Galen Cloud. Discussion. Zachariah Harjo, would you like to discuss this, sir?
Sure would. So this request is similar to the IT request as before. However, from what I understand, facilities does not have the budget to absorb this type of cost, and it was previously covered, I believe, under an ARPA allocation since it was related to the mitigation of COVID and disinfection. So they're essentially asking for a continuation of their maintenance contract for the machines they already own and operate related to the disinfection services that they now provide post-COVID. Through the end of 2026. And so there was two options. The machine that they own and operate for disinfection apparently needed repairs or maintenance in the amount of $8,000 to $9,000. But what this does is it purchases them a maintenance plan for the next 3 years. So they'll be covered all maintenance costs and repairs through the end of 2026. So I thought this was a better investment than covering a one-time cost since they will for the foreseeable future continue operating their disinfection services.
Thank you, Zachariah. We also have Gary O'Neill here. Garrett O'Neill, would you like to say a few words, sir?
Yes, thank you, Speaker.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, these machines help us make our own disinfectant. It's called hypofluorous acid. Also, when we make this disinfectant, it saves us money and it could replace expensive chemicals and harsh chemicals as well. And it's safe to apply around other people. And some of the things, not only in COVID-19, it helps kills. On the EPA list in, it's for COVID-19. List A for C. diff, germs that cause diarrhea and colitis. List K for monkeypox, and as well as E. coli, salmonella, staph, listeria, TB, H1N1, mold, fungus, and etc. We've been using this after hours. My guys have been going out and spraying maybe an hour or so, as well as facilities. Once we get this other machine running, we can probably, reach out to other communities. Maybe they can come and, we can donate to the other, then they can clean their buildings.
Sure. All right. Thank you, sir. Greatly appreciate you. Do we have any comments, questions?
Yeah.
Representative Golden.
I think I heard you say that other public places that you could extend this to that could help with this machine.
Yes, like the community centers, and also during the pandemic, we donated to schools as well.
Okay. So it could include ceremonial grounds and churches as well. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Any other comments, questions? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Joseph Hicks,
Yes.
Randall Hicks,
Yes.
Robert Huff,
Yes.
Anna Marshall, Anna Marshall,
You're not unmuting me. You got me muted.
We hear you.
You got me muted.
we hear you.
Okay, yes.
Charles McHenry,
Yes.
Thomasine Yehola Osborne,
Yes.
Daryl Proctor,
Yes.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Galen Cloud,
Yes.
Mary Crawford,
Yes.
Joyce Deere,
Yes.
Patrick Freeman,
Yes.
Sandra Golden,
Yes.
Leonard Gouch,
Yes.
Nelson Harjo.
Yes.
Speaker, you got 15 in favor and 0 against.
15 in favor, 0 against. NCA 23-094 is adopted. NCA 23-095, a law of the Muskogee Creek Nation amending NCA 13-200, a law of the Muskogee Nation approving and authorizing the principal chief to execute and file the articles of organization with the office of the Secretary of the Nation to form One Fire Holding Company, LLC, under the Muskogee Creek Nation Limited Liability Company Act, and approving the operating agreement for One Fire Holding Company, LLC, as amended by NCA 14-080 and NCA 14-7178 and NCA 18-121, NCA 20-007, and NCA 21-019. Sponsors, Representative Patrick Freeman Jr.
Motion to adopt.
Representative Patrick Freeman Jr. makes a motion to adopt.
Second.
Seconded by Representative Thomasine Yehola Osborne. Do we have discussion? Any discussion?
Yes, Speaker, I just think this is basically referencing the previous 23-093 with the corrected language for the Secretary of Commerce.
All right, thank you, sir. Any other comments, questions, concerns? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Patrick Freeman,
Yes.
Sandra Golden,
Yes.
Leonard Gouch,
Yes.
Nelson Harjo,
Yes.
Joseph Hicks,
Yes.
Randall Hicks,
Yes.
Robert Huff,
Yes.
Anna Marshall,
Yes.
Charles McHenry,
Yes.
Thomasine Hola Osborne,
Yes.
Darrell Proctor,
Yes.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Galen Cloud,
Yes.
Mary Crawford,
Yes.
Joyce Steer.
Yes.
Speaker, you got 15 in favor and 0 against.
15 in favor, 0 against. NCA 23-095 is adopted. Last item on the agenda, NCA 23-096, a law of the Muskogee Creek Nation appropriating funds for the purchase and installation of 5 new flagpoles to be located at Treaty Park, St. Augustine, Florida. Sponsor, Representative William Lowe. Representative Galen Cloud makes a motion to adopt, seconded by Representative Joseph Hicks. Discussion. Chief Hill, would you like to discuss this, sir?
I think most of you heard Ron Fields got the number that we have our acting secretary. Entities, comments.
Yes, Ms. Rayland, would you like to say some things, ma'am?
Thank you, Chairman. On September 18th, it'll mark the 200th anniversary of the signing of the Treaty of Camp Moultrie that took place near St. Augustine, Florida. And this is located in St. Johns County, Florida, south of Jacksonville. So not too far, a few counties from the Georgia-Florida line. And there's a planning of an event there to have all the Florida Indians is what they called it during the treaty. But today that represents the Seminole Tribe of Florida, the Seminole Nation of Oklahoma, the Miccosukee Tribe of Indians, but also Muskogee Creek Nation. And all 4 tribes plan to be there with St. Johns County Commissioner. There's a park there called Treaty Park where they spent 12 days negotiating this treaty 200 years ago. And the idea came up to, well, let's have all of our flags flying. And so for 5 poles, we'll have the 4 tribal nations, but then also the United States flag from that time, 1823. So it'll permanently have a place for Muskogee Creek Nation history. And the other Muskogee tribes are brethren, the Seminoles, to have a permanent stance there. As you all heard from Ron earlier, there have been attempts from other groups in the state claiming to be related to Muskogee Creek Nation, descendants of Creek Nation, or they're the Lower Creek people. They want to get state recognition. They're not federally recognized. We feel that this is a staple to show that these are the only 4 tribal governments that had a history continuously for the last 200 years in the state of Florida.
Thank you, ma'am. Any comments, questions? Council representatives? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Galen Cloud,
Yes.
Mary Crawford,
Yes.
Joyce Steer,
Yes.
Patrick Freeman,
Yes.
Sandra Golden,
Yes.
Leonard Gouch,
Yes.
Nelson Harjo,
Yes.
Joseph Hicks,
Yes.
Randall Hicks,
Yes.
Robert Huff,
Yes.
Anna Marshall,
No.
Charles McHenry,
Yes.
Thomasine Hola Osborne, Thomasine Hola Osborne,
Yes.
Darrell Proctor,
Yes.
Mark Randolph.
Yes.
Speaker, you got 14 in favor and 1 against.
14 in favor, 1 against. NCA 23-096. That concludes our order of business. Controller, may we please have a funding source?
Yes, Speaker, the funding source would be interest on permanent fund.
Thank you so much, Controller. Interest on permanent fund is the funding source. On to announcements. Do we have any announcements, council representative? Is representatives. Huge budget hearing in about 20 minutes, so if you need to eat, quickly do so before 1 p.m.
One other now.
Yes, sir.
Tonight is Okmulgee Indian Community Center candidate forum, 6 to 8.
6 to 8 OIC candidate forum is tonight. Any other announcements? Adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Representative Joseph Hicks makes a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Seconded by Representative Galen Cloud. I would like to ask Representative Sandra Golden for today's benediction, which will serve as our adjournment.
Let us pray. Dear God, I thank you so much for bringing us together and blessing us with our knowledge and our experience to do what we need to do for the nation. And don't forget all those people who are sick and shut in and who need prayers for their healing. Lord, we ask all these things in Jesus' name.
And Representative Golden. We are adjourned at 12:41 p.m.